Beneath the silver luminescence of a full moon, the Sector 9 penitentiary looms large, nestled ominously within the jagged embrace of distant mountains, its intimidating facade, constructed from vast monolithic steel structures illuminated by harsh white and crimson lights, stands as an unmistakable symbol of Galactic Authority dominance. Surveillance towers rise imposingly, their lights scanning methodically, accompanied by the gentle hum of hovering patrol vessels arriving and departing from expansive landing platforms that stretch seamlessly into the facility's stark exterior. Inside, the penitentiary reveals a sterile and cold aesthetic. A sleek, seamless corridor composed of reflective metallic surfaces stretches into the distance. Bright, unforgiving overhead lights cast an icy glare, illuminating the polished floors and pristine walls, each cell door embedded seamlessly into the structure with minimalistic, secure access panels. The space feels clinical, devoid of warmth or humanity, emphasizing the oppressive efficiency of Galactic Authority imprisonment. Within a confined metallic cell illuminated by faint white emergency lighting, Pearl Johnson meticulously scratches another precise tally mark onto the wall. With silver-streaked hair hanging loosely about her shoulders, Pearl, a woman hardened by resilience, yet softened by exhaustion, wears a standard orange prison jumpsuit, a stark contrast against her dark brown skin. Her whispered count is a blend of precision and frustration. 147 days, 3 hours, 22 minutes, Pearl murmurs with bitter determination. An unwelcome flush overtakes her, sweat beading sharply along her forehead. Aggravated, she fans herself aggressively. Not now, not right now, she groans, gritting her teeth against the discomfort. Suddenly, the cooling system clanks noisily to life, sending a rush of cold air through the vents. Pearl momentarily closes her eyes, savouring the brief mercy. Small mercies, she exhales softly. Her reprieve is interrupted by a distant blaring alarm. The blue lights abruptly pulse to a deep, threatening red. Pearl stands swiftly, pressing her face against the reinforced window embedded in her cell door, alert and tense. Down the stark corridor, armed guards rush chaotically. Amidst them floats an otherworldly prisoner, Nova Prime, seemingly untouched by the guards' rough handling. Her luminous purple skin glows softly, illuminating her long, flowing white hair that moves subtly as though underwater. Despite heavy restraints, she maintains a dignified grace, an enigmatic smile gracing her features. A guard sneers sarcastically, "Enjoy your stay, Your Highness." Galactic Authority sends its regards as he roughly pushes her into the cell opposite Pearl's. The door seals with a hiss, but Nova remains serene. Once alone again, Pearl returns urgently to her bunk. Reaching deftly into a hidden wall cavity, she retrieves a small makeshift device. Her fingers work swiftly, expertly, each movement purposeful and methodical, her expression revealing her relentless determination to escape this oppressive place. With each adjustment, Pearl plots silently, every move bringing her closer to reclaiming her freedom and dignity. Nova stands in the center of her identical cell, eyes closed, seemingly meditating. Then she opens her glowing eyes and scans the room carefully. She moves to the wall nearest Pearl's cell and places her hand against it. A faint purplish glow emanates from her palm. "Hello, neighbor. I sense your presence and your purpose," Nova whispers, with her soft, musical voice carrying an otherworldly accent. She moves gracefully to her bunk and sits cross-legged, perfectly poised despite the dingy surroundings. The vast, utilitarian space stretches before them like a metallic cavern, filled with the constant din of scraping utensils against metal trays and the low murmur of conversations in a dozen different galactic languages. Long tables arranged in perfect rows create an almost military precision that speaks to the authorities' obsession with order and control. The air hangs heavy with the smell of processed protein and recycled atmosphere, a constant reminder that they exist now at the mercy of their captors' systems. Pearl sits in calculated isolation at a corner table, her back to the wall, a position that allows her to observe the entire room while minimizing potential threats. Her methodical nature extends even to this mundane ritual as she sorts her food tray into precise sections, each component separated with the same attention to detail she once applied to starship schematics. She takes small, measured bites, her modified wrist device catching her attention between mouthfuls. To casual observers, it appears to be nothing more than a standard prison tracker, but Pearl's engineering expertise has transformed it into something far more sophisticated. The device displays readings that would mean nothing to the guards, biometric data that appears normal, timestamps that seem routine, but beneath the surface it's calculating guard rotations, mapping electrical frequencies, and storing data that will prove crucial to her escape plans. Every scan, every beep, every seemingly random fluctuation is actually Pearl gathering intelligence with the patience of someone who understands that freedom requires preparation. Nova's entrance into the mess hall creates an immediate shift in the room's energy. Conversations pause, heads turn, and even the most hardened criminals find themselves momentarily mesmerized by her otherworldly presence. She moves with a grace that seems to defy the oppressive weight of their surroundings, as if the harsh, fluorescent lights that drain color from everything else only serve to enhance her luminous purple skin. Her long white hair flows behind her like liquid starlight, and despite wearing the same degrading grey jumpsuit as every other prisoner, she carries herself with the bearing of royalty. She navigates through the maze of tables with purposeful intent, her glowing eyes scanning the room, not with the predatory assessment of a survivor, but with something that looks almost like compassion. When her gaze finally settles on Pearl's solitary figure, a smile plays at the corners of her mouth, not the calculating expression of someone sizing up potential prey, but the recognition of a kindred spirit. Pearl notices Nova's approach long before the alien reaches her table. Her engineer's mind automatically catalogues details, the way Nova's feet seem to barely touch the ground, the subtle energy field that makes nearby electronic devices flicker almost imperceptibly, the fact that other prisoners unconsciously create space around her as she passes. Everything about Nova screams both power and danger, which immediately puts Pearl on high alert. "May I join you?" The energy convergence at this table feels most harmonious, Nova inquires, her voice carrying those same musical tones Pearl had heard the night before through the cell walls. Without waiting for permission, Nova settles gracefully across from Pearl, her movements so fluid they seem choreographed. Pearl's irritation flares immediately, not just at the presumption, but at her own inability to control this interaction. In her world, variables needed to be managed, outcomes predicted, and Nova represents far too many unknowns. "This table is occupied," Pearl states, her tone carrying the firmness of someone accustomed to being in command. "Yes, by us now, cosmic synchronicity," Nova replies, that serene smile never wavering. Pearl's jaw tightens as she returns to her methodically organized meal, each bite a small act of defiance against this unwanted intrusion. The precision with which she eats, protein first, then carbohydrates, then the vitamin supplement that tastes like metal shavings, is both a comfort ritual and a way to maintain control in a situation where she has precious little. Look, I don't do whatever this is. Small talk, friendship bracelets, prison besties. I'm on a schedule, Pearl explains, her words clipped and efficient. Nova tilts her head with the curiosity of someone encountering a fascinating puzzle. Schedules are illusory constructs. Time is the one thing I don't have to waste. So if you'll excuse me, Pearl interrupts, beginning to rise from her seat, but then it hits her, that familiar wave of heat that starts in her core and radiates outward like a malfunctioning fusion reactor. Her face flushes crimson, sweat beading instantly across her forehead despite the mess hall's deliberately cool temperature. She grips the edge of the table so hard her knuckles go white, her breath coming in short, controlled bursts as she fights against her body's rebellion. The timing couldn't be worse. Here she is trying to project strength and control, and her own biology chooses this moment to remind her that some things remain beyond even her considerable engineering skills. The irony isn't lost on her. She can jury-rig a warp drive from spare parts, but she can't stop her own body from short-circuiting at the most inconvenient moments. Nova observes this struggle with an expression that holds no judgment, only a kind of ancient understanding that seems to span the vast differences between their species. The life transition energy flowing through you is turbulent today, she says with genuine concern, as if Pearl's discomfort causes her actual pain. The what now? Pearl manages through gritted teeth, still fighting the wave of heat that seems determined to make her look weak in front of this enigmatic stranger. Nova leans forward slightly, her voice taking on the tone of someone sharing sacred knowledge. On my world we call it the ascendance, the biological metamorphosis that grants wisdom and power. You're experiencing it now, yes. The word metamorphosis catches Pearl's attention despite her discomfort. As an engineer, she understands transformation, the way raw materials become something greater through careful application of energy and pressure. The idea that her body might be undergoing its own kind of engineering process rather than simply failing her offers an entirely new perspective. Slowly, Pearl settles back into her seat, studying Nova with the intensity she usually reserves for complex technical problems. You mean menopause? You aliens go through that too. All sentient, female-adjacent beings experience the great transformation, though I suspect your species hasn't learned to harness its potential yet. And there's something in her knowing smile that suggests she's speaking from personal experience. Pearl lets out a laugh that carries more surprise than humor. The idea that this universal experience might be something more than just biological inconvenience challenges everything she's been told by human medical science. Harness its potential. Lady, the only thing I've harnessed is the ability to sweat through reinforced prison clothes while freezing at the same time. Nova's eyes gleam with something that might be excitement, or perhaps the recognition of an opportunity. She leans forward conspiratorially, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Perhaps we could help each other. I sense you have plans. The sudden shift in conversation causes Pearl's expression to immediately close off, her engineer's paranoia kicking into high gear, Trust is a luxury she can't afford, especially when her carefully laid plans represent her only chance at freedom. I don't know what you're talking about. But Nova's next words hit their target with surgical precision. The guards may not notice the modifications to your tracker, but I can see the energy signature fluctuations. You're building something powerful. Pearl stares at Nova for a long moment, her mind racing through calculations of risk versus reward. How could this alien possibly detect modifications that she'd specifically designed to be undetectable? The implications are both terrifying and intriguing. If Nova can see energy signatures that human technology can't detect, what other capabilities might she possess? The silence stretches between them, filled with the ambient noise of the mess hall, but charged with potential. Pearl's every instinct screams caution, but her practical side recognizes that survival often requires adapting to new variables, even when those variables come in the form of purple-skinned aliens with mysterious abilities. Why would you think I'd trust you? I don't even know why you're in here. Pearl finally challenges, testing the waters. Nova's expression grows distant, as if she's looking through the mess hall walls towards something far beyond their prison. I led a resistance against the occupation of my home world, Luminara. The Galactic Authority doesn't appreciate those who challenge their expansion into what they call underdeveloped sectors. And what do you call it? Pearl asks, though she suspects she already knows the answer. Home, Nova replies simply, and in that single word Pearl hears echoes of her own fierce protectiveness toward Earth. The understanding that passes between them is immediate and profound. Two leaders who sacrificed everything for their people, now trapped in the same cage by the same oppressive force. A recognition that perhaps isolation isn't the only path to survival. I was the chief engineer on Earth's first interstellar vessel. We encountered the Authority at the edge of our solar system. They claimed we were trespassing in protected space. Pearl shares, surprised by her own willingness to reveal classified information. Nova's eyebrows raise with obvious interest. And you disagreed? Forcefully, Pearl confirms, allowing herself a hard smile at the memory of the Authority flagship limping away from their encounter. Nova's eyes practically shine with appreciation, and Pearl can sense that her respect has just increased dramatically. You damaged their flagship. I heard the guards speaking of it. Quite an achievement for such, what was the term? Primitive technology. The word primitive strikes a nerve, as it was clearly intended to. Pearl's pride in human ingenuity flares immediately. Primitive? I'd like to see them build a warp drive out of modified microwave parts and repurposed satellite components. Nova's laugh rings out like crystal wind chimes, a sound so pure and joyful that it seems to transform the oppressive atmosphere around them. Several nearby prisoners actually smile without knowing why, as if Nova's laughter carries some kind of infectious happiness. I believe we may have compatible goals, Pearl Johnson, Nova declares, her enthusiasm growing visibly. The use of her name stops Pearl cold, and her engineer's paranoia immediately kicks back into high gear. I never told you my name. Nova taps her temple with one graceful finger, her expression growing slightly apologetic. Empathic resonance, a gift of my people. I don't read minds merely, impressions, emotions, intentions. Pearl processes this information with the methodical approach she applies to all new data. An alien who can sense emotions and intentions would indeed be a valuable ally or a terrifying enemy. The fact that Nova has revealed this ability suggests either trust or tactical manipulation, and Pearl isn't sure which possibility worries her more. The pragmatic part of her mind, however, is already cataloguing the potential applications. That could be useful, but I work alone, always have. Until now, Nova suggests, her voice carrying a hope that seems almost childlike in its sincerity. Before Pearl can formulate a response, the harsh buzzer that signals the end of mealtime cuts through their conversation. Around them, prisoners begin the familiar ritual of clearing trays and preparing for the next phase of their regulated day. Nova rises with that same fluid grace, but she doesn't immediately leave. Consider it, at least. Two minds with different skills approach problems more effectively than one, even brilliant minds like yours, she says, and there's something in her tone that suggests she's speaking from experience with collaboration across species barriers. As Nova glides away, Pearl finds herself watching the alien's retreating figure with a mixture of analytical interest and something that might be longing. The isolation that has been her strength for so long suddenly feels less like protection and more like limitation. For the first time since her imprisonment, Pearl Johnson allows herself to consider that perhaps survival and escape might not be solitary endeavours. Before Pearl can reply, the mess hall's ambient noise cuts to silence instantly. Every fork, every voice, every breath freezes as an unnatural stillness sweeps across the room. A low-frequency hum begins to vibrate beneath their feet, so subtle at first that it feels more imagined than real. Then it intensifies. Trays rattle, lights flicker, a dull vibration pulses through the reinforced walls as the red emergency lights above begin a slow, synchronized strobe. Pearl and Nova lock eyes, not in panic but in mutual recognition. "That's not a fire drill," Pearl mutters. Nova's gaze sharpens, scanning the unseen threat like a sensor array. Something ancient stirs beneath the surface of this place. A moment later, the mess hall doors slam shut with a violent hiss. Guards rush in, barking commands in multiple languages, but even they look unsettled. Overhead, a mechanical voice crackles through the PA system with a phrase neither woman expected to hear so soon. Code Black initiated. All sectors locked down. Unknown anomaly detected in lower sub-level systems. Nova stands, serene but alert. It begins. Pearl slowly rises beside her, jaw clenched. "Guess lunch is over,"